Hi, and welcome to another video by Bayview Auto Repair. This one is going to be some basic maintenance that anybody can perform if you follow my step-by-step instructions. Now, it may seem like a very simple job changing your oil and your filter, but there's a couple of very important points that you never want to overlook because you're definitely going to run into an issue if you overlook these points. One is you want to make sure that your oil drain plug is in good condition. If the plug is cracked or if it looks like it's in poor condition, you want to replace the plug, or you want to replace the gasket that's on the plug. The second very important thing is that when you take this oil filter down, I will show you this too. When you drop the oil filter out of the vehicle, you want to make sure that the gasket on the filter comes off with the oil filter. If it doesn't come off and you leave that gasket up there by mistake, you're going to wind up screwing the new filter on, which will screw on. But then when you start the vehicle up, it's going to blow out the gasket and you're going to wind up losing all your oil and possibly your engine, and you never want to do that. So it's a simple step, but you want to make sure you always check to make sure that the old gasket comes down. I'm going to bring you in there. I'm going to show you what kind of tools you're going to need. You're going to need some basic hand tools, a ratchet, and a tool to remove the filter, which I will show you. After the oil change is done, the filter is put on. The filter is put on and the oil is installed in the vehicle. We're going to go into the car, or truck in this case, and we're going to reset the oil maintenance reminder light. That's a very important part of an oil change once you do it, because that way it'll keep track of how many miles in between oil changes for you. So enough BS, let's get up there. I'm going to show you what tools you need and we're going to get started. So come on, let's go up front. Okay, this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to be needing to do this job. One, you're going to need a light so you can see what's going on underneath there, so you make sure that your O-ring comes off your filter. You're going to need a ratchet, whether you use a swivel head or you use a straight head, it doesn't really matter. You're going to need some sockets, an assortment of sockets. In this case, I think it's going to be a 13 or a 14 millimeter, but we'll see when we get underneath there. And you're going to need a tool like this to remove the oil filter. Anything that you have will work perfectly. This is the old wrench that we used to use years ago, and we still use today. You put it on the filter, and you turn it counterclockwise to remove it, and you take the filter off the car. This one here is another style that you have. It goes over the filter like this, and you can see where it's ribbed. You know what, maybe you can't see it, so let's take this off. You can see where it's ribbed on top up here. You could put this over the top, and it fits in there nice and tight. And then you would get in there with an extension and a ratchet such as this, and then you would rotate it counterclockwise to take it off of the vehicle. That's another kind that we have. This one is one that works when the filter is extremely tight and you can't get it off. This one is expandable. You can see it opens and closes, different sizes for different filters. It goes around the filter like this. And again, you would go counterclockwise to remove it. But this one, the difference on this one is that when you turn this, instead of it slipping over these ribs here, these jaws will actually grip into it and grab it and turn it off. So it's personal preference, whichever ones you like best. You can use my two favorite, or these two right here. They work really well. And remember I told you about that O-ring. This is the O-ring. Obviously it's on the new filter, but this is the O-ring I'm talking about. When you remove the filter from the car, sometimes this O-ring stays up on the car, where the oil filter fits onto the oil filter housing. If that's the case, then you just need to knock that filter gasket off and you install your new one. Alright, so enough talking. Let's get underneath the car. I'll point out where the filter is and where the oil drain plug is located. Okay, now this is underneath the car. This portion over here is your transmission, and this is your oil drain, your oil pan, and this is your oil drain plug. All right, so that's the plug we're going to remove. We're going to have a suitable container underneath it to catch the oil in, and after it finishes draining, we'll reinstall the plug, and then we're going to come up over in the front right up here where the oil filter is located, and we're going to remove that oil filter too. So, all right, let's get a bucket over here to catch the oil in, and we're going to continue. Okay, so now that we have a suitable container underneath here, to catch the oil in, we're going to come up and we're going to remove that oil drain plug. Now, remember, it's counterclockwise to remove it, clockwise to install it. You want to make sure you have gloves on because, as you know, motor oil is quite a mess. All right, so we have a bucket down here. Now, normally I would have this this bucket up a little bit higher so I can get the oil into it, but I don't want to block your view. Maybe you can see. All right, so we just take the plug out now. Okay, we're going to let that oil drain out, and once that oil is totally empty, then we'll put that plug back in. Now, I want to just point this out to you. Remember we talked about the gasket, the O-ring here? This one here is a rubber ring. Personal preference. You don't have to change it every time you do an oil change, but if it was in poor condition, you definitely want to remove it and put a new one on there. All right, so for now, this one is good, so we are not going to replace that drain plug. We're going to let the oil drain out, and once the oil drains out, then we'll come back and we'll do that filter. Okay, once it finishes draining out, then you take your drain plug and you screw it back in by hand. You always want to screw it in by hand. You never want to tighten it up with a wrench or a ratchet or anything like that until you make sure it's not cross-threaded. Now you can use a obviously you see I use a socket all the time whenever I do this, because I don't take a chance on stripping anything out. But you can use a wrench. I'll show you what I mean. If you use a wrench, you always want to use the box end of a wrench. You never want to use the open end section of a wrench like this, because you always run that possibility of that open end part of the wrench stripping out the drain plug, and then you're going to have a problem. So if you use a wrench, only the box end. That's it. All right? Okay, so now we're just going to wipe off any excess oil here. We're going to come up to where the oil filter is located here, and then we're going to remove that filter. So let me reposition you so you can see, and we'll continue. So, as you know, this is where our filter is located. And remember we talked about the different styles that can go on there. And again, you put it on like this. You just come back slightly to make it fit, and you take it and you turn it. And you just want to loosen it up first until you can turn it by hand, and then you're going to stop, take your tool away, because it is going to leak all over the place, and then we're going to rotate this and let it drain out a little bit. You want to make sure you have a suitable bucket below, of course. Now, I'm a big advocate for wearing these gloves. You know that, because if you get any oil on your gloves like this, it's no big deal. You just wipe it right off. All right, so now once it finishes draining, well, actually it should drain more, but I'm going to continue anyway. Once it finishes draining, you take it off the rest of the way. Okay. Now, you know I told you about that gasket, right? As you can see, that gasket did come off. It didn't stay up there. But if it did stay up there, you would just basically just get your hand on there and just push it or pull it, and it comes right off. All right, now you want to, if you have any grease or any dirt or anything like that on that housing, you want to clean it before you put that new filter on there. All right, now we're going to take our new filter. We put a very slight bead of oil, clean oil, around on the filter itself, and then we take it, screw it up there by hand until it comes in contact with it, and then you tighten it as tight as you can by hand. You're not going to over tighten it using your hand, but you never want to use a tool on it. All right, so make it as tight as you can by hand. All right, and then dry off any residual oil that's up in there. All right, and that's it. Let's lower it down, let's put the oil in it, and wrap this job up. Okay, now looking underneath the hood, obviously this is where your motor oil goes, in here. Now this is the recommended weight oil that you'll need to use. It calls for a 5W20. You want to make sure that you always use whatever is recommended by the manufacturer. Never go by what somebody told you. You can use 530, 540, 1040. You never want to use anything except what's recommended by the manufacturer. All right, so yeah, I'll show you what you would. All right, so this is how you, and now I'm going to show you how to install the oil and make sure it's full. Now, I looked it up on a computer, and I know it takes 6 quarts, but if you didn't know, you would actually put some oil in it, and then you would start it and check it just to make sure. Now, as sure as you are that you're not going to be making a mess, you always want to use a funnel, because believe me, I've seen it more often than not, a mess. All right? Make sure that you use the correct oil. It'll tell you on the container which one you're going to use, and you would actually fill it up. And if you didn't know how many quarts, you would check your owner's manual. And I know it takes 6 quarts, so that's what we're going to put in. After you got your quarts of oil in there, your 6 quarts of oil, we'll take our funnel out. Make sure you put your cap back on before you start the vehicle up. And now we're going to, actually let me explain to you. A normal range for the oil is, you see these 2 little dots right here? It's supposed to be closer to the upper notch right there. It should be, that should be the full mark right there, but in between there is acceptable. So we'll put the dipstick back in. And now we're going to start the vehicle, let it run for a couple of seconds. Okay, now after we had the car running for a couple of seconds, we'll shut it off and we'll take the dipstick back out. Wipe the stick down clean. And then we'll put the stick back in. Make sure when you check your oil level that it pushes all the way down as far as it can go. And then you pull it back out. And you'll check to make sure you're in that normal range, which, as you can see, it's in the normal range. Okay, so now that you have the oil change done, you want to make sure of a couple of things. Make sure that your oil cap is tight. Make sure your dipstick is pushed all the way back down as far as it can go. Make sure that your oil drain plug is not leaking. And also look underneath your vehicle to make sure that your oil filter is not leaking. And that's it, you're all done. All right, so the oil change is finished. We're going to go inside the car now, and we're going to reset the oil maintenance reminder light. So let's go in there and we'll get that done too. Okay, so after your oil change is done, you'll come over and you'll turn your ignition key to the on position. You don't have to start the vehicle. Now the controls that we're going to be using are going to be these controls right over here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to scroll down until we get to settings. And then we're going to hit the right button to enter it. We're going to scroll down now to Vehicle. Use this button to scroll down. And now once we're down to Vehicle, then we hit this button here to enter it. And now we're going to scroll down again with this button here to Oil Life Reset. And then we're going to enter Oil Life Reset right here, just like that. And we want to reset it to 100% is what we want to do. And then you would press this button here. And that's it. Oil life reset to 100%. Alright, so fairly easy when you know what you're doing. Like I said, you're just using these buttons right here to navigate through the system. I'll go through it one more time for you here. Alright, key in the on position. Now we're not going to be in this screen, so we'll be up somewhere probably around here. You'll come over to this button here, key in the on position, engine not running. You scroll down till you get to settings. Once you enter the settings, you click on the right button, you enter it, and now you want to scroll down. So we're going to go to right? Now you would probably come in someplace like this, but you use this button here to navigate down to the oil life reset. Then you would hit the oil life reset. And if you wanted to set it to 90%, you could do that. You can just hold it right there, and then you press the OK, and you could reset it to 90% or whatever you want to set it to. I always set it for 100%. So you press it, you hold it, and it resets to 100%. Alright, so that reset procedure is fairly easy once you see it done. You just scroll through it the way that I showed you, and you'll have no problem. But if you do and you need to talk to me, you send me an email. I'll talk to anybody about anything. Remember, there is no such thing as a foolish question. A foolish question is one that you don't ask. So don't feel bad about asking questions. That's what I'm here for. Alright, as always, thanks for watching. Any questions or comments, you want to talk to me about anything, you can send me an email. I'll talk to anybody about anything. Alright, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.